In 2003, at the tender age of 15, I died. My heart ceased its rhythm for 6 agonizing minutes. It was an ordinary afternoon, a mundane slice of time carved from the routine of my high school existence. I had just stepped off the school bus, my sneakers scuffing the cracked pavement of the familiar 4-block walk to my front door. The air was thick with the scent of autumn leaves, and the world seemed unremarkable safe. But then, without warning, a wave of nausea surged through me, coiling in my gut like a serpent stirring from slumber. I had felt perfectly fine that day. Lunch was the usual fare Bosco sticks dipped in marinara sauce, a meal I'd consumed countless times without incident. Yet as I trudged along the sidewalk, the nausea intensified, a clammy dread seeping into my bones. My skin prickled with cold sweat beads of it rolling down my temples despite the crisp fall air. Then came the flutter, a strange, erratic sensation in my chest, like a bird trapped beneath my ribs beating its wings in desperation. I later learned this was ventricular fibrillation, a chaotic misfiring of the heart's electrical signals. My body betrayed me, and I collapsed the world, tilting into darkness. My lifeless form sprawled across the asphalt, a fragile husk abandoned in the middle of the street. A woman in a hatchback nearly ended me entirely, her tires screeching to a halt inches from my skull. She leapt from her car, her hands trembling, as she tried to rouse me. When I didn't stir, she dialed emergency services, her voice a frantic thread weaving through the fog of my unconsciousness. Paramedics arrived to find my heart silent, my body a hollow vessel. I was by all medical definitions dead. They loaded me into the ambulance, their hands working with desperate precision to coax life back into me. Somewhere in that blur of sirens and jolting shocks they succeeded. My heart sputtered back to life, but not before I had glimpsed the other side. What followed was a grueling odyssey through hospitals, an ablation to correct my heart's faulty wiring, a pacemaker to keep it beating, and a mountain of medical debt that still haunts my family. But those earthly trials pale in comparison to what I experienced during those 6 minutes. I hesitate to call it heaven, for the word conjures images of serenity and divine embrace. What I encountered was no paradise. It was a realm of terror, a truth so horrifying it reshaped my understanding of existence. I share this now not to scorn the faithful, but to warn those who cling to comforting myths about what awaits us after death. My story is a burden I can no longer carry alone. It began with light. Not the warm, golden glow of spiritual tales, but a blinding, pervasive whiteness that seared my senses. It enveloped me, a suffocating presence that was both alluring and oppressive. I felt myself rising, drawn upward by an unseen force, as if the light itself was pulling me toward an unknown destination. I passed through gates, though they were not gates in any physical sense. They were barriers of intent, thresholds that seemed to judge my worthiness to proceed. I felt their weight, their silent permission granting me passage, though I sensed they could have barred me with a thought. When I arrived, I was no longer bound by the constraints of flesh. I existed in a place without form, a realm that defied the logic of our world. It was as if reality itself had unraveled, leaving only impressions that flickered like shadows on a cave wall. My mind struggled to comprehend it, for the astral plane resists translation into human understanding. What I recall are not images but sensations, truths that seeped into my soul like poison. I was not alone. Other presences surrounded me, their energy pressing against my own. Raised in a Christian household, I initially mistook them for angels, celestial guardians sent to welcome me. In my incorporeal state, I extended what felt like arms, yearning for their embrace, for the love and comfort promised by Scripture. But instead of warmth, I felt chains. Invisible, yet unbreakable, they bound me like a beast, collared for slaughter. Humiliation surged through me, followed by a terror so profound it threatened to unravel my very essence. These were no angels. They were overlords, cold and merciless, their power absolute. I was their prisoner, a soul snared in their grasp. Why I cried out my spirit's voice, a wail of anguish, a child's plea for mercy. Their response was a laughter that chilled me to my core, a mocking chorus that echoed with cruel amusement. Thoughts, sharp and fleeting, pierced my consciousness like shards of glass. They carried truths about our universe, revelations so horrifying I struggle to articulate them even now. Our universe, they revealed, is not a grand creation born of divine love. It is a farm, one of countless others, scattered across the multiverse, designed to cultivate souls. The conditions of our cosmos, the delicate balance of physics, the improbable harmony of our Goldilocks planet are not accidents. They are engineered, crafted by entities who care nothing for the lives they spawn. We are their crop, grown in the fertile soil of suffering and consciousness, ripened for harvest. Our purpose, I learned in those endless moments of torment, is to serve. Humanity's existence, from the Big Bang to the rise of sentient life, is a deliberate process to produce souls ripe for enslavement on their higher plane where time and space dissolve into an eternal now. We are destined to labor under their dominion. The pain of this revelation was not physical, but spiritual, a grief that clawed at the core of my being. It was akin to the loss of a loved one, but magnified 1,000-fold, a wound that bled without end. During those 6 minutes, which stretched into an eternity, I was subjected to the whims of a childlike spirit, a being whose cruelty knew no bounds. It toyed with me, batting my soul about like a cat with a dying mouse. Each moment was a fresh assault, a psychological torment that made the fires of hell seem merciful by comparison. The pain of the soul is indescribable, a piercing agony that transcends the body's capacity for suffering. I was its plaything, and it reveled in my despair. When it became clear that my time on earth was not yet done, the spirits delivered a final warning. They forbade me from revealing their existence, promising a marginally better station among their slaves if I complied. But if I dared to speak the truth, if I convinced others of their malevolent design, new horrors would await me upon my return. I cannot fathom a torment worse than what I endured, yet their threat lingers like a shadow over my soul. I awoke in the hospital, my body battered but alive. For weeks I tried to share what I had seen. I spoke to doctors, nurses, my family, anyone who would listen. They dismissed my words as the delusions of a traumatized mind, scars left by a brush with death. Their pitying looks and gentle reassurances only deepened my isolation. I began to doubt myself, to wonder if it had all been a dream, a fabrication of a mind grappling with its own mortality. A death dream, they called it, and I almost believed them. Years later, I met someone who claimed to have met God. He was an author, a man whose book about his near-death experience had garnered acclaim. I attended his reading in my hometown, drawn by a need to know if others had seen what I had. Afterward, I approached him, my heart pounding as I asked if he truly had met God. His smile was practiced, his words smooth, with the confidence of a man who had answered this question countless times. Yes, he assured me, God is real and God is love. But I saw it. A flicker in his eyes, a fleeting crack in his facade. I leaned closer and whispered that I knew the truth, that slavery awaited us all. His gaze faltered, and in that moment I knew. He had seen it too, the cruel overlords, the chains of the astral plane. He had witnessed the same horrors, but chose to lie to weave a comforting tale with the masses. He knew the truth of heaven, the wretched fate that awaits our souls. Now I carry this knowledge like a curse. I no longer speak of it to those who won't listen, but I can no longer remain silent. The afterlife is not a place of peace or divine reward. It is a trap, a realm of servitude ruled by beings who see us as nothing more than fodder for their eternal machinations. I share this not to shatter your faith, but to prepare you. When your time comes, when the light beckons, know that it is not salvation that awaits. It is Shackles.